we think about a lot. And we know you're interested in exploring some strategies that maybe go a little bit beyond the usual, just the SMART goals.
Right.
So yeah, SMART goals are a great starting point, but we're going deep today into a world of alternative frameworks that might just be even better suited to you and your goals, and how you ready to find a system that really clicks.
Absolutely.
All right.
It's really amazing how many different approaches there are out there.
Yeah.
Some are all about tackling those obstacles, things that always seem to get in the way. And then others are like encouraging you to dream bigger than you ever thought possible.
I love that. Now we've got a chatbot conversation as our guide today, and it is packed with alternative goal-setting techniques, so let's just jump right in. First up is WOOP, Wish Outcome Obstacle Plan. I have to admit, when I first came across this one, I was a little skeptical. It sounded almost too simple.
Right.
Like real.
Yeah, but there's a real psychological power to this that you might not expect. It's all about kind of turning that anxiety that we often feel when we're like facing a challenge into a set of steps that we can actually take action on. So instead of being like, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming and I don't know what to do, it's like, okay, what could go wrong?
Yeah.
And what am I going to do about it if it does?
I love that because it is that like pre-planning for things that might go wrong. Instead of letting them just completely derail you, you're kind of anticipating them, like pre-planning for them. I remember when I was trying to overcome my fear of public speaking.
Oh, a classic.
Oh, yeah.
WOOP scenario.
Total WOOP scenario. My wish was to become a more confident speaker. And the outcome that I was picturing was that feeling of like satisfaction after delivering a killer presentation.
Right. Of course.
But then, of course, there is that obstacle, which is the fear itself. But WOOP doesn't let you just like shy away from that.
Yeah.
It forces you to confront it
Yeah.
and to create a plan to deal with it. So in my case, my plan involved practicing beforehand, visualizing a successful presentation, and yes, even developing a little calming ritual to help me manage those pre-speech jitters.
Sure.
It really is all about kind of shifting that mindset from like, what if I mess up, to I've got this and here's what I'll do if things get tricky.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating about this? Studies have actually shown that simply imagining those obstacles and then planning for them can actually reduce anxiety and increase your chances of success. It's like you're mentally rehearsing for those challenges. So then when they come up, you're not caught off guard.
Totally. So think about a goal that you've struggled with. Could anticipating those roadblocks and having a plan in place have made a difference in the outcome for you? I'm starting to think WOOPio might be the secret weapon we've all been missing.
A powerful tool for sure. But let's move on to another interesting framework. Hard goals. Heartfelt, animated, required, difficult.
Okay, I love this one because it really focuses on the feeling behind your goals. It's not just about setting any old target. It's about choosing goals that truly resonate with you on a deeper level.
And that's where that heartfelt aspect comes in. Like, these goals have to be deeply meaningful to you. They need to tap into your core values, your passions. Because let's be honest, when you're truly invested in a goal, staying committed to it is a whole lot easier. It's not just a task on a to-do list. It's something you genuinely believe in.
This is such a contrast to SMART goals,
Okay.
and which, while practical, can sometimes feel a little bit impersonal and, dare I say, even a little bit cold. Hard goals bring that emotional connection, that fire in the belly. That can be so crucial for staying motivated, especially when things get tough.
Absolutely. Think about it this way. If your goal is simply to hit a certain sales target, that's a perfectly fine SMART goal. But if your hard goal is to build a business, that makes a positive impact on the world because you're deeply passionate about that cause. Well, that taps into a whole other level of motivation.
It's like the difference between simply going through the motions and being driven by a deeper sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me think about, we talk a lot about finding your why, and this is like putting your why front and center.
Exactly. And that sense of purpose can make all the difference.
Yeah.
When you're facing setbacks or you're feeling discouraged, because you're not just working towards this like arbitrary target, you're striving to make a difference that matters to you.
I love that. So we've talked about WOOP for anticipating obstacles, hard goals for connecting to your core values. Now, for those of you who thrive in fast-paced, ever-changing environments, we've got clear goals: collaborative, limited, emotional, appreciable, refinable. This one seems tailor-made for teams and projects that are constantly in flux.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. Clear goals recognize that in many work settings, things rarely go exactly according to plan. Projects evolve, priorities shift, new information emerges. So instead of clinging to these rigid objectives, Clear goals embrace that dynamic nature. By building in flexibility,
So it's less about sticking to a fixed roadmap and more about having a compass that can kind of guide you through those inevitable twists and turns.
exactly. And that refinable aspect of clear goals is key here. It encourages you to constantly be evaluating your progress, gathering feedback from your team and adjusting your goals accordingly. And the collaborative element is equally important because it really fosters that open communication and ensures that everyone's on the same page as the project evolves.
This might be particularly relevant for those of you who work in fields like tech, where innovation is happening at lightning speed, and the only constant is change. Think about how clear goals could improve your team's process. Are you allowing for enough flexibility and feedback loops to keep up with that rapid pace?
It's all about finding that balance between having a clear direction and being adaptable enough to navigate the ever-changing landscape of your work.
Okay, now for a little tech world inspiration, we've got OKRs, objectives and key results. And this is the method championed by giants like Google and Intel. They're known for setting the bar high. So let's hear what they're doing.
So OKRs might sound familiar because they share some similarities with SMART goals, but they often operate on a much grander scale. We're talking about ambitious objectives paired with very specific, measurable key results. So it's not just about hitting that quarterly target. It's about aiming for significant advancements. That can really move the needle in a big way.
So if a SMART goal might be about, say, increasing website traffic by 10%, an OKR might be about becoming the leading innovator in your industry within the next 5 years.
That's a great way to put it. It's about setting that bold vision and then breaking it down into those concrete, measurable steps that will get you there. And what makes OKRs so effective is that they create this constant feedback loop.
Right, you're not just setting a goal and then forgetting about it.
Right.
Until the end of the quarter or the year,
Right.
you're regularly evaluating your progress toward those key results, making adjustments as needed, and ensuring that your efforts are aligned with that overarching objective. It's about creating a culture of accountability and continuous improvement.
Yeah. Think of it as having a roadmap with built-in checkpoints along the way. You're not just blindly following the path. You're constantly assessing your position, making sure you're on the right track, and course-correcting as needed to reach your destination.
All right, we've covered WOOP, hard, clear, and OKRs. All very different approaches to goal setting. Let's switch gears and explore something called backwards goal setting. Now, this one might sound a bit counterintuitive at first because it involves, well, working in reverse.
It's a really fascinating approach, and it can be particularly useful for complex goals that involve multiple stages and a lot of moving parts. Imagine you're planning a cross-country road trip. You wouldn't just hop in the car and start driving without a destination in mind, would you?
Well, I might, but that's probably why I'm always getting lost.
Exactly. Most of us would start by choosing our destination and then mapping out the route, considering the stops we want to make along the way. And that's essentially what backwards goal setting is all about. You start with that end goal in mind, that desired outcome. And then you work backward, identifying the steps you need to take to get there.
So instead of starting at point A and trying to figure out how to get to point Z, you're starting at point Z and mapping out the route in reverse.
Precisely. It's like planning that road trip in reverse. You start with the destination, and then you work backwards step by step until you arrive at your current location.
So with backwards goal setting, you're not just blindly moving forward. You're strategically working your way back from that ultimate goal, ensuring that each step you take is aligned with that final destination. It's like having a detailed itinerary for your cross-country road trip.
Yeah, it provides that structure and clarity, which can be incredibly helpful when you're dealing with a complex goal. That might feel overwhelming at first. By breaking it down into those smaller, manageable steps, you're creating a roadmap that guides you through the process and helps you stay on track.
I love this approach. I'm already thinking about planning a dream vacation or writing a book. It just feels like such a good way to break things down into those manageable steps.
Absolutely. Let's say, for example, your goal is to graduate from college. With backwards goal setting, you'd start by visualizing yourself at graduation, diploma in hand. Then you work backward, mapping out each semester, each course, each assignment needed to reach that final point.
That is such a good example because, yeah, it takes that huge, daunting goal of graduating and it breaks it down into these smaller, more digestible milestones. And as you achieve each milestone, you gain momentum and confidence, which propels you forward on your journey.
Exactly. It's like that feeling of satisfaction that you get when you check off an item on your to-do list. But on a much larger scale, Each step you complete brings you closer to that ultimate goal, and that sense of progress can be incredibly motivating.
I love it. Now prepare for liftoff because we're moving on to BAG, which stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. This is not about making small incremental improvements. This is about setting your sights on something truly transformative.
Yeah, BHEGs are visionary, ambitious, even a little bit daunting. They're about dreaming big,
Yeah.
pushing boundaries, and striving for something that might seem impossible at first glance.
Okay, I have to admit, I love the name. Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. It just sounds so bold and exciting.
It's a great way to capture the essence of this framework. BHAGs are designed to inspire, to challenge conventional thinking, and to ignite a passion for achieving something extraordinary.
Think about a company like SpaceX. Their BHAG isn't just to launch rockets into space, it's to colonize Mars.
Exactly.
That's a BHAG if I've ever heard one.
It is. And it's precisely that audacity, that willingness to dream big
Yeah.
and embrace the unknown, that fuels innovation and motivates people to work together toward a common goal. BHAs are about creating a future that's significantly different from the present, a future that pushes the boundaries of what's possible.
It's like setting a goal so big, so audacious, that it forces you to think differently, to innovate, to collaborate, to push beyond your comfort zone. It's about creating a vision that's so compelling, that it draws people in and inspires them to be part of something truly remarkable.
Okay. Now let's shift gears a little bit. Talk about MTO goals. Minimum target, outrageous. This framework is all about building in flexibility and ambition. It's about recognizing that success comes in different forms and that we don't have to limit ourselves to a single rigid target.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more. What is this about?
So you've got your minimum goal,
Yeah.
which is kind of your baseline for success, a target goal that represents your realistic aim, and then an outrageous goal that encourages you to, well, think outside the box and reach for something extraordinary.
I like that it gives you those multiple levels of achievement to aim for. You've got like the minimum, which is your baseline, the target,
Your realistic aim.
and then outrageous, which is like, okay, let's just blow the roof off this thing.
Exactly. And what I find so fascinating about this is how they cater to different levels of performance and risk tolerance. So the minimum goal ensures that you're hitting that basic standard. The target goal is where you're realistically aiming. And that outrageous goal is there to encourage you, to push yourself beyond your perceived limits.
Imagine a sales team using this. The minimum goal might be hitting their quota for the quarter. The target goal could be exceeding that quota by a certain percentage. And the outrageous goal might be like breaking a company sales record.
Yeah. It's a framework that encourages healthy competition and ambition, but also acknowledges that success comes in different forms. And by setting those 3 tiers of goals, you're giving yourself permission to celebrate your achievements at each level, while still striving for something more.
I can see how that could be really motivating. It's like having those built-in milestones along the way to keep you engaged and inspired. And who knows, you might just surprise yourself and hit that outrageous goal.
You never know.
Okay, we're in the home stretch now. Let's talk about smarter goals, which some might say are like the upgraded version of SMART goals.
Yeah. They take all the elements of a SMART goal, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, and add 2 more components: evaluate and readjust.
So it's not just about setting a goal and then sticking to it no matter what. It's about being flexible, monitoring your progress, and making adjustments as needed.
Exactly. Smarter goals recognize that the path to success is rarely linear. There will be setbacks, obstacles, unexpected changes along the way. And instead of viewing those as failures, smarter goals encourage you to see them as opportunities to learn, adapt, and course correct.
It's like having a GPS for your goals. You plug in your destination, you start driving, and along the way, the GPS provides updates, alerts you to traffic, and suggests alternative routes if necessary. You're still aiming for that final destination, but you're also being flexible and responsive to the changing conditions.
That's a great analogy, and it really highlights the importance of that evaluate and readjust component of smarter goals. It's about recognizing that goals aren't static. They're dynamic, and they should evolve as you do.
Let's say your goal is to maintain a healthier lifestyle. A smarter approach would involve setting specific workout targets, but it wouldn't stop there. You'd also regularly evaluate your progress, how you're feeling, what's working, what's not. And then based on that evaluation, you might readjust your workout routine, your diet, or your sleep schedule to better align with your overall goals and your current circumstances.
It's about building in that flexibility and adaptability, recognizing that life throws curveballs, And sometimes you need to adjust your approach to stay on track. Smarter goals give you that permission to adapt and evolve without feeling like you failed.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've explored WOOP hard, clear OKRs, backwards goal setting BHAGs MTO, and smarter goals.
It's been quite a journey. And what's so exciting is that this is just a glimpse into the vast world of goal-setting techniques. There are so many different approaches to achieving our dreams, and the key is finding those that resonate with you and help you unlock your full potential.
Okay, so we've got all these frameworks laid out, but how do they stack up against good old SMART goals? What are the pros and cons?
That's a great question. And the answer isn't always straightforward, because each framework has its strengths and weaknesses, depending on the specific goal, the individual, and the context.
So it's about finding the right tool for the job, considering the unique circumstances of each situation.
Exactly. But to make this a little bit more practical, let's dive into some specific comparisons. Let's start with WOOP. One of its biggest advantages over SMART goals is its proactive approach to overcoming obstacles.
So SMART goals are great for setting those specific measurable targets, but they don't always address those potential roadblocks that can derail our progress. WOOP, on the other hand, forces you to confront those obstacles head-on and develop a plan to navigate them.
Right. It's about shifting from a reactive mindset to a proactive mindset. Instead of waiting for something to go wrong, you're anticipating potential challenges and developing strategies to overcome them. And as we discussed earlier, that mental preparation can significantly reduce anxiety and increase your chances of success.
But if we're looking at potential drawbacks, WOOP can be a bit less structured than SMART goals when it comes to tracking progress, so it's great for addressing obstacles. But it might not provide the same level of detailed measurement that some people find helpful.
That's a valid point. Yeah, if you thrive on having very specific metrics and milestones, WOOP might not be the ideal framework for every situation. It might be more effective. When used in conjunction with a system like SMART goals, that provides that extra level of structure and tracking.
Okay, so WOOP is great for obstacle planning, but might lack some of the tracking features of SMART goals. How about hard goals? What are their strengths and weaknesses compared to SMART goals?
So hard goals really excel at tapping into intrinsic motivation. By connecting your goals to your core values, you're creating a deeper sense of purpose and commitment. It's not just about achieving a target, it's about aligning your actions with what truly matters to you.
That is a powerful distinction. SMART goals can sometimes feel a bit arbitrary, like you're just checking boxes on a list. But hard goals are driven by something much deeper. A belief, a passion, a desire to make a difference. And that can make all the difference when it comes to staying motivated and pushing through challenges.
Absolutely. However, one potential drawback of hard goals is that they can be less focused on measurable outcomes. So while SMART goals emphasize specificity and quantifiable results, hard goals might be more focused on the why behind the goal, rather than the how much or by when.
So it might be a bit more challenging to track progress or determine whether you've truly achieved a hard goal. It might require a bit more introspection and self-reflection to assess whether you're living in alignment with those core values that underpin the goal.
Right.
It makes me think about values-based businesses, where it's like, you're not necessarily always measuring success by the bottom line, but by the impact that you're having and how you're living out those values.
And that's something to be mindful of. When choosing between these frameworks, if you need that concrete, measurable feedback to stay motivated, SMART goals might be a better fit. But if you're driven by a deeper sense of purpose and are comfortable with a more qualitative approach to goal setting, hard goals might be the way to go.
Okay, so WOOP for tackling obstacles, hard for tapping into your values. What about clear goals? How do they measure up against SMART goals?
So clear goals really shine in collaborative and fast-paced environments. They embrace flexibility and adaptability, allowing teams to adjust their goals. As projects evolve and new information emerges, this can be incredibly valuable in industries where change is the only constant.
I can see how that would be essential in fields like tech, where innovation happens at such a rapid pace. Sticking to rigid objectives might actually hinder progress in those situations.
Right. You need a framework that allows you to stay agile, to respond to new challenges and opportunities, and to keep moving forward, even when the path ahead is unclear. And clear goals provide that flexibility. However, one potential drawback of clear goals compared to SMART goals is that they can be less structured in the long term.
Because you're constantly refining and adjusting the goals, you might not have that clear timeline or that sense of finality that you get with a SMART goal. It could be more challenging to determine when a project is truly complete If the goals are constantly evolving,
That's a valid concern. And it might be helpful to use clear goals in conjunction with a framework like SMART goals to provide that additional structure and accountability.
all right, let's move on to OKRs. How do they stack up against SMART goals?
Well, OKRs are similar to SMART goals in their emphasis on specific measurable objectives. However, OKRs are often much more ambitious in scope. They're designed to drive significant progress and innovation, often at the organizational level.
We talked about how companies like Google and Intel use OKRs to set those big, hairy, audacious goals that push the boundaries of what's possible. And while they share similarities with SMART goals, they often operate on a much grander scale.
Exactly. And that's one of their key strengths, their ability to inspire and align teams around a common vision. They're about setting that bold direction and then breaking it down into those concrete, measurable steps. That will drive significant progress.
However, that ambition also comes with a potential drawback. OKRs can be more complex to manage than SMART goals, especially for individuals. If you're working on a personal goal, the structure and scope of OKRs might be overkill. SMART goals might provide a simpler and more effective framework for individual goal setting. So OKR is great for big, ambitious organization-level goals, but might be less suitable for individual projects.
Got it. What about backwards goal setting? How does that compare to SMART goals?
So backwards goal setting is really brilliant for complex goals with multiple stages. It provides that clear roadmap. By working backward from the desired outcome, it helps you break down those overwhelming goals into manageable steps and ensures that each action you take contributes to that ultimate objective.
Like having that detailed itinerary for a cross-country road trip. You know exactly where you're going
Yeah.
and how you're going to get there,
Yeah.
even if there are some unexpected detours along the way.
Exactly. However, one potential drawback of backwards goal setting is that it can lack the emphasis on measuring interim progress that SMART goals offer. So while you have that clear roadmap, you might not have those specific milestones or metrics to track your progress along the way. And for some people, that lack of concrete feedback can make it harder to stay motivated or to know whether they're truly on track.
That's a valid point. And again, it might be helpful to use backwards goal setting in conjunction with a framework like SMART goals to provide that additional level of measurement and accountability.
All right, how about those big, hairy, audacious goals, the BHAGs? How do they compare to SMART goals?
So BHAGs are incredibly inspiring and visionary. They have the power to ignite passion, foster innovation, and drive teams to achieve extraordinary results. But they often lack the short-term structure and measurability that SMART goals provide.
They're more about setting that grand vision, that long-term aspiration that can transform a company or an industry. And while that can be incredibly motivating, it might not be the most practical approach for everyday goal setting or for those who thrive on having concrete, measurable targets.
Exactly. BHAGs are best suited for those big-picture long-term goals that require a more visionary and less structured approach.
What about MTO goals? How do they measure up against SMART goals?
So MTO goals are fantastic for encouraging flexibility and ambition. They provide those 3 tiers of achievement: minimum, target, outrageous, which can be really motivating and cater to different levels of performance.
I like that they give you permission to celebrate those smaller wins. While still striving for something extraordinary, it's a great way to stay engaged and prevent yourself from getting discouraged if you don't immediately hit that outrageous target.
Right. However, compared to SMART goals, MTO goals can lack a focus on deadlines and a structured approach to tracking progress.
They might be a bit more free-flowing and less focused on those specific metrics and timelines that SMART goals emphasize.
Right. And finally, we have SMARTer goals. How do they compare to their SMART counterparts?
Well, SMARTer goals take all the elements of a SMART goal and add those 2 crucial components: evaluate and readjust. It's about recognizing that goals aren't static. They need to be flexible and adaptable to changing circumstances.
And that adaptability is a major advantage of SMARTer goals.
Yeah.
They encourage you to monitor your progress, gather feedback, and make adjustments as needed to stay on track.
It's about embracing that journey and recognizing that there will be twists and turns along the way. However, SMARTer goals can be more time-consuming than SMART goals because of that added emphasis on evaluation and readjustment.
Right.
So if you prefer a more straightforward, set-and-forget-it approach to goal setting, SMART goals might be a better fit. But if you're comfortable with a more dynamic and iterative process, SMARTer goals can provide that flexibility and responsiveness that can be crucial for navigating a complex and ever-changing world. So we've explored the pros and cons of each framework compared to SMART goals, and it's clear that there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Right. The best approach is to really consider your individual needs, the specific goal that you're trying to achieve, and the context in which you're working.
It's about understanding the strengths and weaknesses of each framework and choosing the one that best aligns with your personality, your goals, and the challenges that you're facing. It's like having a whole wardrobe of goal-setting outfits. You wouldn't wear a suit to the gym or hiking boots to a wedding, right? Each outfit, or in this case, each framework, serves a different purpose and is suited for different occasions.
And the more options you have in your wardrobe,
Hmm?
the better equipped you are to handle whatever life throws your way.
Okay, I love that analogy. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some key takeaways our listeners should keep in mind when choosing a goal-setting framework?
Well, first and foremost, remember that there's no right or wrong answer. The best framework is the one that resonates with you the most, the one that feels natural, and aligns with your personal style and goals.
So it's less about finding the perfect framework and more about finding the one that fits, kind of like choosing the right pair of shoes. It depends on where you're going and what you'll be doing.
Exactly. Think of this deep dive as expanding your toolkit. You know now you've got a whole array of goal-setting techniques at your disposal. You can experiment, try different approaches, and see what works best for you in different contexts.
Okay, so we've got options. Permission to experiment. What else?
Don't be afraid to combine frameworks. Maybe you love the obstacle planning of WOOP, but you also crave the structure of SMART goals. Why not use both? You can adapt these frameworks to fit your unique needs and preferences.
So it's like creating your own personalized goal-setting system, a hybrid approach that combines the best elements of different frameworks. I love that. What else should our listeners keep in mind?
It's important to remember that goal setting is an ongoing process, not a one-time event. It's about regularly evaluating your progress, making adjustments as needed, and staying flexible in the face of changing circumstances.
And that's where that evaluate and readjust element of smarter goals comes in. It's about recognizing that life throws curveballs. And sometimes you need to adapt your approach to stay on track.
Exactly. The world is constantly changing, and so are we. Our goals should reflect that evolution.
Okay, final thoughts before we wrap up this deep dive.
Goals should be meaningful and motivating, whether it's a BHAG that ignites your passion or a WOOP goal that helps you overcome a fear. The process should feel empowering and inspiring. It's not just about checking boxes, it's about setting ourselves up for success and fulfillment.
So I have a challenge for our listeners as we conclude this episode. Think about one goal you've been struggling with, or maybe one that you've been putting off. Could be anything big or small, personal or professional.
Now consider which of these frameworks might be the best fit for that particular goal. Which one resonates with you the most? Which one feels like it could help you overcome those obstacles and achieve that desired outcome?
Don't be afraid to experiment, to try something new. The journey of goal setting is all about discovering what works best for you and empowering yourself to create the life you envision.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey. There are countless resources, communities, and individuals out there who can support you along the way.
That's it for our deep dive into goal-setting frameworks. We hope you found it insightful, inspiring, and maybe even a little bit life-changing.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and never stop striving to reach your full potential.
Until next time, keep those goals in sight. And remember, you've got this